Hello, my name is Charlie Brooks and welcome to this month's IAMPRO. This week we've got an actor that I'm very excited about having on, and he's going to tell us all about his drama school experience that he's 15. No, I've just forgotten if you went to his 15 or not. He's 15 in Guildhall. He did both. He did the foundation and he's currently in line of duty. And without further ado, before I say too much, I'm going to bring him in. Hi, darling.
Hey, Charlie. All right.
Yeah, really good to have you on here. How are you?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Yeah, I'm great. I'm really good. Thanks. I'm really good.
Good. That was a bit of a jumbled intro. Apologies. Note to self, don't do two Q&As back to back because then your brain stops working. So why acting for you, Mark? Where did it all start?
Well, it was all a bit of a mistake for me, really. I had no interest in it whatsoever until I was probably about 21. Basically, what I did was I was getting into a lot of trouble at high school and I moved over to a bit more of a posher sixth form just to get away from it all, really. And I met this drama teacher and I couldn't get onto sociology because it was full. So they said, why don't you do drama? And I said, all right, I will. So I went in, met this teacher, did the A-level drama course, and he said, are you applying for drama schools? And I said, no, I'm not. And I didn't know what a drama school was, didn't know they existed. And he just said, look, so he wrote down a list of universities that do drama, but he also added 2 drama schools onto it. And I got the audition through and I was like, what is this? You know, like, I've got to come up with a Shakespeare monologue and stuff. What's all this about? So he just said, come on, we'll work on it a couple of hours tonight and what have you. So we did that. We worked on it really minimally. And I went in and I turned up at, I think it was Mount View Academy was my first audition. And I turned up, there was a girl sat in the cafeteria. And I said to her, what are you doing here? Because I thought it was 12 hours a week, like a uni course. And I said, what are you doing here? And she said, well, I've got a dance class for my 3rd year production. I said, well, what are you doing for the rest of the day? And she was like, well, I'm here for the rest of the day. We do like 10, 12 hours a day. And my jaw hit the floor. And I just didn't, I was like, I did not expect that level of commitment. I literally wanted to go to university, toss it off for 12 hours a week, come back, join the army or get a trade. And that was it. But I got in. And then I also got into a foundation course at East 15. And I thought it's only a year long, is that? Let's give that a go. Have a look at it.
Yeah.
So when I was there, I actually wrote all my own audition pieces and everything based on experiences. And then I ended up getting into Guildhall. And it wasn't until the 2nd year of Guildhall that I realised that this is absolutely for me.
Really?
No way. And then weirdly, I'm not musical at all, but it was actually a musical project that made me go, oh, I really love this. And it was because there was so much, I had to transfer massively in terms of character. And I was like, oh, I really like this Camouflage stuff that we're working with. And that for me, it just sang a song that I like the sound of. So I was
do you sing as well? Were you singing into the musical?
No, I mean, I had a song in it, but it was a really geeky song in American. And I didn't have to show off any vocal range or anything like that. And it was just an opportunity where I was playing something totally different to myself. And I thought, oh no, this is where I live. This is where it's starting to come alive for me.
Amazing.
So yeah, that was like my introduction to it. But we had no Amdram, we had nothing like that. I mean, the only acting we did was trying to blag someone out of a few quid. That was about it.
I love hearing stories like that, though. I love it when people just didn't have a clue what any of it was about, and there's one teacher that just kind of navigates what your whole path for your path for your whole life is going to be, and it can and change it.
Yeah, totally. And it was that. It literally was that. I mean, he was quite an interesting guy. He was basically pigeonholed into working in the school, but he loved doing drama. And he mentioned Quentin Tarantino. I'd never heard of a Tarantino film, and Kill Bill had just come out. And I think he directed me towards watching that and his style. And he was also someone who played around with sleep patterns and inducing sleep he learned how to carry on dreams on a nighttime when he was young and a hippie. And I was fascinated with him. And it was so different to anybody that I'd grown up with. And I thought, oh, maybe I should go widen my horizons, go meet some new people. And so coming out of London at drama school, I mean, there's nothing like it. Everybody's totally different. It's an eclectic mix of everybody, and I just loved it.
How important do you think it is to like surround yourself with people that are wanting to do the same thing and all that?
Yeah, I think it's really important. I think it's really important. I think sometimes that bubble can become claustrophobic, so that the other person that you can compare yourself with is actually, it's a bit like when you were growing up and the other person that you could compare yourself with was someone who lived on your street. The same applies to sort of training and drama school, really. You're in a comparison mode because you're constantly trying to work out what's right and what's wrong, if there is such a thing. And the only people that you can reflect those ideas off are the ones that you're surrounded by. And actually, it's a pretty limited number. It's not until you graduate that you start realizing, shit, actually, the span of people out there, it's not just 18 to 23-year-olds, it's everybody.
Yeah.
I think the first time you do a job with anybody who's in their 50s, for instance, it just knocks you sideways because you've never worked with anyone at that age.
Yeah. But it's never too late, is it? That's what I love about this platform. So many of our audience are sort of 40 plus. And I was just saying to somebody else, we get emails saying, is it too late? Is it too late? And I'm like, no, it's not.
Yeah, it's not.
Too late.
Of course it's not. Yeah, of course it's not. I believe that if you get in the right casting brackets and with the right casting directors, I think anybody can do it.
Yeah, yeah. And what was your experience of Guildhall like? Guildhall was my dream place to go.
Was it? Did you apply there?
No, well, I got EastEnders when I was 17, so I was like straight into that. And I'd been on the foundation course at Arts, and I was like, see you later. Which I still regret now. I wish I know.
Do you know what was weird? I remember when people getting their first jobs in the third year, and the school were really reluctant to letting them go and work. And I was like, well, that's what you're here for. You're that vehicle. Add them to the alumni and let them get on with it. But my experience of drama school was it was mixed. I loved being around such a varied, wide variety of people. In my year, we had people who were directly related to the Cadbury's family and went to Cheltenham Ladies. And then on the other end of the spectrum, I had a mate who was from Mexico City. His first job was cleaning sanitary rags for people in his local town. And so it was a wide variety of people. And I loved that aspect of it. The training is very classical at that school.
Yeah.
It was the movement that opened it up for me. I realised that I came from a physical background in sport, and then I realised that my way in was a physical way in, even if it's subtle, anything small. And as soon as that was introduced to me, then my ears really pricked up. But there's a lot of laying on your back, humming to ceilings and listening to teachers who never made it talk a load of shit.
I love your honesty there. Thank you for that. Did you do a lot of Shakespeare?
Yeah, a lot.
Have you done that in your professional career?
Yeah, I did. I did a show with my missus we both did a show, Coriolanus, with Tom Hiddleston.
Oh, wow.
So we did that at the Don Mar, sort of as West End, off West End, and then I haven't done any other professionally, but at school we did loads of it. I actually really like the lyricism of it and the poetry of it. I really got into that. I've always read books, novels that have that, whether it's a hidden poetry or whatever, and I loved getting my mouth around it. Learning it for me was just a bitch, but as soon as I'd learned it, it was in there, and I could make it different every time, and I loved it.
And what are your learning techniques? How do you learn efficiently, especially Shakespeare?
Oh God, I have a thing where before the first day of any project, I have to know every line.
Me too.
Every line. So I once I get onto the project, then I'm not fretting about it, and I can just enjoy myself.
Yeah.
But I have to know, and weirdly, I never forget them. So like my memory bank's must be quite a deep memory bank. Because if you threw me a cue from certain things years ago, I'd probably know it. And it's like, it's weird. It's just weird. But I like to know if it's 6 episodes. I like to know at least like have a foundation of it, so that when I pick it up that morning, I'm not actually learning the words. I'm just refreshing it.
Yeah. There's so much more freedom that comes for me. I think that, I had the conversation with a lot of people that do theatre that are like, no, don't learn it before you go in. You read it off the page. I can't do the two things at the same time. Like have a script in my hand in the rehearsal. I find it so hard. as best I can, I have to familiarize myself, because that's where the freedom comes.
Yeah. I know. I don't understand it with theatre sometimes. They're like, don't learn it. And it's almost like they're terrified that you've got something stuck in concrete.
Yeah.
But I've never felt that way about our work anyway. And I like taking direction, and I like doing everything slightly differently every time. So for me, I'm always like, well, I'll sit here with the scripts and pretend that I've not learned it, but I've learned it.
You like to do things differently every time. How does that work for you in TV? When you're filming, do you offer something different to the directors and the crew when you're filming? Like, how does that work for you? What's your process there?
I think sometimes if your character's driving the scene or has I guess the emotionality of the scene.
Yeah.
Sometimes if the director's shooting on me first, and I know the director and the actors are fine with it, I might give them 3 or 4, not radically different options, but I try to give them the best looking cutting room floor that they can have. So like, I'll try to give them 4 different options, and then when they swing round on the other person, if they're happy with what we're doing, I'll match those 4 variations for the other person. If it's the other way around, though, it's just about responding. If they're the emotional, or they carry the emotionality or the drive in the scene, then I've got nothing which is stuck in any way. I just find it really liberating. Say, for instance, they're just set up on sticks for something. And they just shoot, and there's no camera moving it. There's not really any reset. I love being able to say, look, I'll just give you 5 on the bounce and give you 5 loads of variation, and you can choose whichever one you want.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way of working.
I really enjoy that, and I love surprising people and being surprised. Probably easier on camera than in the theatre, really, because I think in the theatre, when people get surprised, they just shit themselves.
Come up stage. What the fuck were you doing?
Yeah, what are you doing? You're supposed to pick that teacup up and put it down that way.
Yeah. So true. Do you have, from script to stage or to set, do you have a particular process of things that you go through as an actor every time? Or do you just read it, reread it, and it's it? Or do you do any work? Like, what work do you do on it?
I go through, and I hate scripts that are highlighted. There's like probably about 4 things that aren't highlighted by the end of seeing. You see actual scripts and you're like, well, how the fuck do you know what you're doing now? Because everything's highlighted. So I just go through. I underline any stage direction which is applicable to me, but I'd never ever worry about it because everything's different on the day, especially when you're shooting. And then I just put a little nick, I'm quite anal about it, next to my line. And then I try to have read it so much that every note that I've ever suggested to myself is in my head rather than on the page. So actually, I always know that I'm doing good work when I walk in and there's nothing on the script.
Oh, really?
Because I've already programmed it in my head.
That's good. You sound like you've got a really good memory, and I can't retain anything.
You surely must be able to retain a lot.
Well, like with lines for EastEnders, you get into a rhythm, but retaining information or stories that I've heard, or like strategically thinking about different things, it gets a little bit too much for my little head. So I have to be really quite practical about things and ordered.
How many days ahead? Say you've got a massive Janine storyline.
Yeah.
And you're in solidly for the next 4 weeks or whatever.
Yeah.
How many days ahead of the shoot do you have to have those lines in your head?
Me and Danny Dye would have this argument all the time because he would do it the night before, and
I bet he does. I knew he would.
And never drops a fucking line ever. It's really annoying.
Does, yeah.
I know. I would say I would have to have broken the back of it a week before we do it. So I
broke the back of it, yeah.
There, and then I put all the scenes into days, and then I'd have this. So I've got the scheduled scenes, and then I've got the story order scenes, and the night before I will then go over that day. but they would have to be, and if it's big speeches like that, I go over, I record, I listen on my phone, you know, it's an effort. It's the
Because
thing.
it's quite unforgiving, isn't it? On that, like, you won't get much time. You'll get a couple of shots and that's it.
Yeah, it's so fast. The homework is relentless. But only if you're in a massive storyline, you know, it's just constant. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have to think instinctively, and that is definitely a particular way of working, which I quite like, actually. You know, you don't have that much time to think about it. So there is quite a lot of work you have to do at home, and then just hope for the best, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But I suppose it's unique in that you work with people constantly, day in, day out. So the familiarity with the characters is all there already. It's not like we're starting from scratch.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. See, I think a week ahead I'd be all right, but what Danny does the night before, I think I just have words in my head and not any meaning.
Yeah.
And so he's amazing. So that's amazing. Hats off, isn't it? It's all horses for courses, isn't it? To be honest, I don't really give a shit how you get there.
No, exactly.
I'm not bothered if you pull feathers out your ass. I'm really not bothered. As long as, you know, we're both on the same page when you get there.
But I think it's really important for our sort of audience to hear that everybody has a different way of doing it. Because when I was younger, I certainly got so caught up in, I'm not doing it the right way, like the perfectionism. It should be done like that. It should be done like this. I should know that. And there's no shoulds about it, actually. You know, whatever way I was doing it or you are doing it is okay.
Yeah, totally.
What is the best, just talk about notes and everything else, have you had a note from a director that has stuck with you in a good way, that you've taken with you and gone, oh God, I'll have that was a good one? For example, one director said to me once, just do less, be still, do less. And I have to remind myself of that all the time, but it's the most useful thing I've ever sort of been given.
Yeah, it was actually an actor, and it was Eddie Marzan said it. I was working with him last year, and he was playing my dad, and he just said, you know, when actors picked up scripts and they know that it's an interesting character, the first thing that they try to negotiate in their mind is how to glue things to it, how to make if the person, because you get these descriptive words of a character, don't you? Like, the character's very eloquent, or he's, you know, he's got soft touched or something like that. And he was just like, what you have to do is, like, you have to wear those words down. Basically, he said, dig a hole. Building a character is like digging a hole, but once you've built it, just sit in it. Don't bring anything else to it. Just trust that you've done enough, and then just dig a hole and sit in it, and stop trying to indicate anymore. Do the indication at home, blow all that out of your exhaust, I guess he was saying, but just sit in it.
And how much of yourself do you borrow into characters? You know, how much of yourself do you use, do you think?
I think, do you know, I can't, I think there's only been one thing where someone's gone, just be you. That was like, it was a film years ago, but I love any kind of camouflage. I think I've only worked in my accent once in the last, like, 7 years or something. Oh no, probably twice actually. In so long a time. And I love that camouflage. I just love it when I went in for something today, which was he was a very, very enigmatic, thoughtful person. And that was one of them ones where I'd just been able to I'd had the time with it that I could just sit into it. And I could really feel actually that doing less thing, it was just stripped back, but I do like it. I think if you're not moving towards it in an aesthetic way, I think you've got to be moving towards it in a psychological way. The way Janine thinks isn't the way that you think, or the way that my guy thinks in Happy Valley isn't the way that I think. He just he calculates differently, doesn't he? And he makes different choices.
Which is interesting, because that the conversation around acting on your own instincts aren't your own instincts, are they? Because, like you say, they're not us. So it's finding somebody else's instincts within that, which is a whole different thing.
Yeah, totally. And I think that comes with spending time with work. And, like, if I get an audition and I'm given 2 weeks, about it. I'm just like, thank God this isn't going to be a line learning exercise. By the time I get round to do this one, it's going to be bedded in. And that means that I've started thinking of it in an extracurricular way. I'm not thinking of it because I have to. I'm thinking of it because it started to interrupt my way of thinking.
Mm.
And I've been lucky enough to do a few jobs where I've been allowed to be totally immersed in it. I did a film in Scotland, and I was playing someone who, it was all set in a car at night, and set in the northeast of Scotland. And these guys work from 7 till 3 every day, just gutting fish in this run-down factory. And I thought the only way that I'm going to get to know these guys, I needed to learn the accent. They're speaking like a weird language. And then the only way I'm going to get to know them is by going up and spending time with them. And so I just went up. I asked the director if he knew anyone up there. He luckily knew the guy who ran the factory, and he just took me on as a worker. And I worked there for a month. And then that bludgeoning of my mind, of being bored and frozen and abused every day by all the staff there, it started to change my way of thinking, and I started to become immersed in it. Similarly, I did it on something else where I worked on a farm, and I just went up and lived on the farm for a month, and it just informed a shitload of imaginative ideas. How many of them came out on screen, I don't know, but it certainly felt more grounded, and it felt like it had been more invested in my mind, and so I had more confidence in my decisions.
Yeah.
Because I just felt, well, actually, nobody can question me because I know this character better than the fucking writer.
Was that something that they facilitated, or just something you did off your own back?
I think you get it more. They facilitated it, but again, that was from an independent. They were independent films, and I sometimes think if you rang Apple, if you got a job on Apple, and you said I need to go work on a farm for a month, they'd be like, "Good luck," because you know they're not bothered. They don't want to do it. They want it surface level, quick time, in you come. Don't bother us. You know, don't cost us money. Whereas if you get independent directors, especially writer directors, I think they're always desperate for an actual imagining of their work, something that they've put in for years and years and years. An example of that, I did a film last year in Argentina, and I was playing a guy who basically was responsible for killing all the natives in South America. And it was a Chilean director, and he knew that I was coming to a foreign land where my character spoke Spanish, they spoke Spanish, not hardly anybody there spoke any English, and it was a very, very difficult project. But being immersed in that environment, he was so protective over his 12-year project that he's been trying to get off the ground, and finally he's got the money for it, that he was happy to facilitate anything that you needed. Like, can I have an extra day with the horses? Yeah, you can. You know, he's just desperate for you to bring it to life. Whereas I think sometimes things are a little bit more two-dimensional in certain lines of work, or they just don't have the time. They don't have the time to worry about character. They just think you should be able to bring that. I
do think you can see and feel the difference, though, of that time that's put in, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. And it feels like I always play a certain song when I leave, and I always just like leave that behind. I remember coming back from Argentina, and I was so exhausted from it. Just even the learning of the language and everything. I was just so tired from thinking like that person. I got on that flight home, and I just put this song, just like, that's me, man. That's me. And it's almost like you've been through a crash course with the army or something. You're just so shattered from it. But it's really, really, it's a lovely, lovely feeling. And you're right. I think you feel like you've accomplished something, and you've led something and been a part of it.
So through that filming process of an evening, not at the end of the job, are you able to leave it at the door when you're filming, or would you consider that you're a bit method with that?
I think it depends on the project. I think if I'm going in to do something and it's like a cop drama, I can leave it at the door, no problem. If I'm doing something like that where I'm really trying to immerse myself, I can't help waking up in the night, writing ideas down, changing things, being involved, especially if you've got a director who's begging that, like asking for ideas, I can't help but, I think I've only done about 3 projects where I've been like, I could be leaning here towards, if someone gave me the right opportunity, I could definitely have a go at doing this all out. But I do like clicking it. I like being prepped enough so that I can click in and out and have a chat with your grip.
Yeah.
Or your camera operator, and then be prepped enough to be able to just back in.
Yeah.
I remember hearing about certain actors like that. I went for dinner. Do you know what? Name drop. Ready? Have you got
Go
a
on.
stuff hand?
I'll catch it.
My old agent signed Dustin Hoffman, and we went for dinner with him. There's only 4 of us.
Wow.
And I said to him, because he's renowned for it, isn't he? And I said to him, do you like all these rumours about your work? Is it true that you're just in it all the time? And he was like, God, no. He was like, it's all bollocks. He was like, everybody thinks that it's all to do with, like, if you're playing John Proctor in The Crucible and you see someone's watch, you're going to be shouting witchcraft and getting them hanged in the street. Like, it's not like that. He just said, I like to click in and out, but when I'm in. And that's it. And I was like, great. I heard the same about Meryl Streep on Iron Lady. She's playing Margaret Thatcher, something totally different to herself, but she's so prepped that she can click in and out. But maybe then in between scenes, she might not drop the accent, or she'll just stick with it. Or, another setup's happening. Do you want to step off for a second? No, I'm just going to sit here and stay in it. And I think that's totally cool too.
Yeah. I think that's good. And
thank God. Oh, sorry.
No, you go.
I did a job with Monica Dolan. Have you ever worked with Monica Dolan?
No.
She's amazing. She played Rose Weston. I did a thing called The Thief, his wife in the canoe with her, and she went very, very into it on that. And
I loved that.
We were all in accent for the entire thing, and it was all that was led by her. And you could really hear though that by us all staying in accent and stuff for 6 weeks, we built our own little colloquialism and our own little dialects between each other. And it really did start to form a family sound. It was something that was unique to the people who were playing within that family. And I was amazed by her. She's just my hero.
I'll be Googling.
She's amazing.
I was going to say, I'm quite happy, and I bet your partner is, that you don't stay in character with the recent one, Happy Valley. So I met Mark last week, and I was on episode 1 of Happy Valley, and he proceeded to give me the biggest spoiler of all time.
You got to keep up with it.
I know. Well, I have caught up with it. I'm on episode 5 now. But filming that scene, because that was just what stuck in my mind, where you come back and you find your wife with the drugs and with the diazepam, and it's really aggressive. And how much preparation, what's your process before you go into something like that actually on the set? Do you take time to be alone? Do you run it with the other actress? What do you talk us through what you do?
Well, with Sally Wainwright's work, it's all on the page, and it's so well written. I think with that character, what I needed to do was find his temperament, which is he moves quickly up here, but he has this struggle with control. So he questions everything. Like, I think he immediately, if anyone comes to him with a suggestion that is any way belittling to him, did you know, mate, that you could buy those tyres at a different garage? He'll look at them like, well, like someone's just set fire to his house, It's as severe as that to him. As soon as there's a questioning on his ability, he becomes, probably through his own inadequacy, he becomes very, very, very controlling. And I needed to find that first, and then working with, someone who is so accepting, like the actress was, who plays my wife in it. She was so accepted. She was the one that was like, look, if this needs to be physical, I want to go for it. And obviously these days it's like we've all got to be so careful with this stuff. And you've got stunt coordinators, intimacy coordinators, and in that it was both, because there was a sort of like a threat of rape in it. So we had both in the room. But she was literally like, I want if you're up for it, I want to feel like I'm in a fight. So I was like, okay, fine, yeah. And so we went through the motions of it, and then as soon as action's called, it's like anything. It's just fucking free for all, isn't it? It's just a free for all. You get all this structure. It's like, and then my hand goes here, and then my hand goes there, and then when it happens, she's lashing out and throwing you around, and you're like, fucking hell, I've got to actually fight her.
It's good though. It works well. It works well. I'm exactly the same as her. I'm like, let's do it. Because if something feels it's good that all the safety's there. But if it's like it's got to be scrappy, and it definitely felt that.
I think it's really important to give that person a knock on that in the morning and just be like, just so you know, wherever we go with this is me. You are you now, and there's no confusion with that. We're just, if you're ever uncomfortable, just say, and we will fucking stop, and that's it. Now you've got to know that you got to let people know that they're in safe hands. You're not like, I've heard so many horror stories, especially with sex scenes and stuff, where people you just like, you just sometimes can't get your head around it, that people first have a conversation and just be like, just so you know, I'm not actually a dickhead. We hope you know anyway.
I'm going to wrap it up on one last question. This has been an excellent chat, and I have learnt a lot. And I just want to know what advice you would have for, not necessarily younger, for anybody that's looking to start to get into acting. What
I'd say give it a go, no matter what your age. Give it a go. Go in with an ironic sense of humor that this whole thing is mental.
Yes.
Whether or not you're extremely talented or not talented at all, both sides. I've seen both sides of that coin get opportunity, and I've seen both sides of that coin fall down the drain. So yes, it's a bit of a spin of the wheel, but you've got to back yourself and go for it. That
is a fantastic piece of advice and a brilliant chat, Mark. Thank you so much for coming today. It's been amazing to chat.
No, thanks, Chai. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and it was wicked. Good. I'm so pleased. Right, I'm going to play my little outro now and say goodbye. Bye.
All right. Bye.